I'm a big believer in if you truly believe it, and you work extremely hard for it and sacrifice the parties and all the different things that we had to sacrifice as athletes to make it, to get an edge, to get better. You can do anything, just like anything in life. I mean, I restarted over after retiring at 30, 39 and a half, almost 40, and business is going great too. So I'm just a big believer in going after what you believe in and working extremely hard for it. And when you do that, good things happen.
That was 18-year professional tough guy, Trevor Gillies. And you are listening to the Up My Hockey Podcast with Jason Padol. Just watch me now. Welcome to Up My Hockey with Jason Padolin, where we deconstruct the NHL journey, discuss what it takes to make it, and have a few laughs along the way. I'm your host, Jason Padolin, a 31st overall draft pick who played 41 NHL games, but thought he was destined for 1,000. Learn from my story and those of my guests. This is a hockey podcast about reaching your potential. Hey there, welcome back or welcome to the Up My Hockey Podcast with Jason Padolin. I am your host, Jason Padolin, and you are here for episode number 105. And if this is your first episode, welcome. And if this is your 50th episode, welcome. So whether you are new, whether you're a long-time guest, I really appreciate you being here today. And you are going to enjoy the upcoming conversation with Trevor Gillies. Trevor Gillies, for the NHL fans out there that would remember his name, you probably remember his handlebars, because that is what Trevor was most noted for. That he had this very, very thick black handlebar mustache that he would wear, and as far as I remember, he always either had that or a goatee, and generally it was the handlebars. Actually, funny side story. After we had the conversation, because I didn't realize that Trevor and Eric Goddard had some history. I knew they both played for the Islanders, but I didn't know that they had history outside of that and fighting each other. And there was a game that was relatively historic in the hockey world, and that was the Islanders versus Pittsburgh back in I don't remember the year, but it was one of the most penalized games in NHL history. And there was a goalie player fight. Eric Goddard jumped off the bench. Trevor Gillies had already been suspended that game. And anyway, so I guess Godsey and Gillies had mixed it up a couple times. And so after the interview, I ended up texting Godsey, Eric Goddard, and I was like, hey, I was just I just interviewed Trevor Gillies, and he had a lot of nice things to say about you. And Godsey's first question was, does he still have the handlebars? And I said no, and he said, whew, thank God. And so anyways, we had a chuckle about that, and Godsey ended up sending me a picture of Gillies with the handlebars. So anyways, if you're an NHL fan, you might remember Trevor because of those handlebars. And he had his time there in New York with the Islanders, and we do talk about that a little bit. We also talk about his first game ever in the NHL after being in the minors for 6 to 7 years with Anaheim and how that went. But outside of those NHL stops, Gillies was everywhere. Back to him being a journeyman. And when I mean like kind of everywhere, he played for 18 years. Like you have to, 18 years. Not many players do that anywhere, let alone, NHL or pro. And especially the job that he did. You know, he was never at any point in his career, self-admittedly, like a point-producing guy. I mean, he was there for a reason. And that reason was to fight and to use his left hand and to protect the players around him and to be a real good teammate. And that's what he did for 18 years. So not like a Teemu Selanne who played into his 40s and never took a hit or gave a hit and just scored goals and flew up and down the ice. Like these were tough seasons that Gillies was playing. And I don't know. I mean, I kind of lost track of the teams, but it's like over 25 or something. I usually don't do this, but like he started his pro career, Lowell Lock Monsters with the AHL, Mississippi Seawolves in the East Coast League, Greensboro Generals East Coast, Worcester Ice Cats AHL, Augusta Lynx ECHL, Richmond Renegades ECHL, Providence Bruins AHL, Lowell Lock Monsters AHL, Richmond Renegades again, Peoria Rivermen now, Springfield Falcons, Hartford Wolfpack, Mighty Ducks of Anaheim, Portland Pirates, Augusta Lynx, Albany River Rats, New York Islanders, Bridgeport Sound Tigers, goes over the KHL for the Vitsia Chekhov, and he goes to Finland for a year, and then back over here in North America with the Orlando Solar Bears, the Abbotsford Heat, the Adirondack Flames, and then he ends his career with the South Carolina Stingrays of the East Coast Hockey League. Like, that's bonkers. Like, how many different residences that is. And he said he was carrying a daughter and a family around with him for part of it. I mean, that, like, the country's involved, the moving, the everything for the game. You know, everything for the game, and to stay a part of it, and just to do something that he loved. Very successful now. Trevor is also in his Card Connect business. He's a credit card processing business, and he's doing really well with that. We speak about that during the interview here, just about like the approach to life. You know, whether it's approach to chasing a dream, whether it be hockey, or whether it's an approach to chasing your new business or a new career or some type of transition. Like, the approach, the process is what is going to get you through and make you successful. And obviously words that, or maybe not obviously if you're a first timer, but something that I totally preach to the players that I'm working with, falling in love with the process and the standards, the individual standards, your individual standards that it will allow you to, to reach your potential in whatever it is you're doing. But isn't that wild? Like, as far as 409 games in the AHL, 322 games in the East Coast Hockey League, the majority of those, well, not the majority, but he was in exclusively in the East Coast League and call-ups to the AHL for the first part of his career, and then back to the AHL as a regular, and then again full circle at the very end of his career to go back to the East Coast Hockey League again. Like, not many guys do that after playing in the show. Would follow that circle back to the AHL, back to the East Coast League, and do it because they wanted to do it. Like, he just loved it. It wasn't by necessity. It was that he loved it. So, I mean, that's really a testament to him and his passion for what he did. But, yeah, and then 57 games, I joke too, he had his highest goals per game average was in the NHL, where he scored 2 goals in 57 games and outscored me in my NHL career. So something to be said for these tough guys going into the net and having them go in off of them. So this was a good interview. Trevor's super funny, man. Like, he has a lot of these, quirky little one-liners and quotes, and talks about himself back in his East Coast League days as being a nuclear bomb, and stick handling a pork chop around a junkyard dog, I think he used at some point here too. And anyways, like, he had me chuckling the whole time. He's definitely a personality, and he's just an all around good guy, good storyteller, and did it the right way. Did it on guts and determination and effort and hard work and being a good teammate and being a good human and refining his craft and going back to the drawing board and working with a growth mindset and not telling anyone what he could or couldn't do. And at the end of the day, this man played professional hockey for 18 years, had a full season in the NHL with the Islanders and a partial season another year, and has a ton of great memories and a ton of great experiences and a ton of great friends because of it. And today you're going to be able to listen to Mr. Trevor Gillies. So without further ado, I give you episode 105 with pro journeyman of 18 seasons, Trevor Gillies. All right, here we are for episode 105 with former teammate Trevor Gillies. Mr. Gillies, welcome to the podcast all the way from Augusta, Georgia.
Thanks very much, Pods. It's an honor to be on Up My Hockey, baby.
It was funny when, just for those listening, we were on a phone call trying to set this up. We kind of had our days mixed up a little bit, and Trevor's like, "What's the name of your podcast, anyways?" I'm like, "Up My Hockey," and he's like, "You mean like kind of like up your ass?" And I'm like, "Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is." So now you know the name of the podcast, and you also know that it's a little bit cheeky intentionally, but also it has the symbolism of like, let's get better, right? So
that's right.
Anyways,
I love that.
Hope it's a little bit catching for you.
Well, I've been hit a lot, so sorry I miscommunicated the days there, but hey, man, I'm happy to be on with you, bud.
No, super cool. Yeah, so just for a little bit other background for the listeners, Trevor and I played together in Lowell, and And we'll get into that because I think that's kind of interesting because that was your first cup of coffee in the AHL at the time, if the hockey database looks right. Definitely want to chat about that. But then since we were both Islanders at one point, we were able to go to that alumni weekend, and we've been friendly there the last couple of years, but was able to get Trevor on from there. So there's the connection for us. How do you just in passing, like what do you think of that alumni weekend? Was that pretty special or what?
Oh man, it was 50-year anniversary. It was all the old legends were there, and then guys like us. It was total first class, and what a great owner Mr. Ledecky is. I mean, it was awesome. Great meals, great cocktails, great game, amazing arena, and just had such a great time, and really enjoyed chatting with you and your wife and your young boy.
Yeah, well, thanks. Yeah, I mean, I can't say enough about him, and it's funny because as you know a ton of people in the game, as do I. I mean, you go around and kind of talk about what happens on that weekend with guys from other organizations where they played. And I mean, nothing like that is happening anywhere else in the NHL that I've come across, and even to have some type of an alumni group is a bit rare. Some are better than others, but to actually have a weekend like that, it really is a testament to what the Islanders are trying to build there with the new ownership group and are building, with the new arena and everything. So super grateful that I got to play my one game in the island and get to go feel like an NHLer now again once a year. So that's pretty fun for me.
Yeah, I enjoy it too. It's not like I was there that long either, buddy, but just a first class weekend and so many great people and super special thing he's doing, Mr. Ledecky.
Yeah. So I want to get into, I mean, obviously we're here because of hockey and your story is cool. Right. Just to see where you played and how long you played, before you got that, that sip, that taste of the NHL, and all the battles you must have had to go through. So, like, I always like starting it back just, to where it all began and then the minor hockey upbringing and what hockey meant to you, like as a kid. Was it something that you were always super passionate about and something you thought or wanted to be a part of your life?
Yeah, absolutely. Growing up in Ontario, I mean, it's just like, you're from Canada as well. I know I see that World Jays shirt there. I wasn't quite that talented to play for that at that level, but no, man. It's always been my boyhood dream to play in the NHL, and people kind of told my parents they thought me and my brother were crazy. That we had no shot being from Cambridge, Ontario, and just it was so great just playing the game all growing up. We were a AA level, and then we got AAA when I was in minor Bantam, and then I played major Bantam and went off to tier 2. But just getting to work alongside my brother, he was a lot more talented than I was. Played in college and real fast, good player, but could hit and fight and totally different than me. But it was just such a blessing to play this game, and it's such a great game, and you meet so many great people. So yeah, it was always my dream, buddy.
So was he older than you or younger than you, your brother? I didn't know there was that relationship there.
Yeah, my brother's younger than me. He's a Halloween birthday of 1980, and I'm a 79, so year 9-month difference. And yeah, he's my best friend. Miss him every day. So it's one of the tough things about falling in love with and living in the South. You don't really get to see your family as much as you'd like, but
right.
He's awesome, man.
That's cool. So then growing up, and I take this from a father perspective more than a sibling perspective because I didn't have any growing up, and now I got 3 boys. You met the middle one, Gunner, there, who's the tender, and last year you met Hudson, who's my oldest, and they're 15 months apart, so really similar to you and your brother, and then I have a younger one that's 24 months after Gunner, so like 40 months between them, 3 of them front to back. So you mean pretty tight. And you mean their relationship has obviously evolved over the years. I mean, Hudson's now 13, Gunner's 12, and TJ's 10. So you mean that shifts and changes with puberty and growth and all that kind of stuff. But I wouldn't classify any of them as best friends yet. You mean they're brothers and they battle a little bit for sure, and they have their differences. But like, what do you remember about you and your bro like growing up? Was it always how you feel it is now, a best friend?
Yeah, kind of like what you're saying with your boys. I mean, it's developed over time. My brother had a lot better hands than me, so he'd be like stick handling a pork chopper on a junkyard dog, in the garage or in the driveway. And I didn't really like him toe dragging me and not being able to get the ball off him too much. So, a little hack and whack, and maybe we dropped the middies. But he, but no, super close. That probably started, when we started playing together. My brother got to play up, so starting when we got AAA and minor bantam, then we became really, really tight and training and shooting pucks, all the same stuff everyone's doing,
Right.
working on our game and having some fun together.
Yeah,
but you're doing a great job. I got to meet two of your boys, like you said. Gunner, I was very impressed with. You're doing a great job, you and your wife. Great handshake. Look me in the eyes. Just that's important, and communicates very well. Just a great kid. So no, I enjoyed chatting with him.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, Gunner's a beauty. He's
Great name too, by the way. He's got to be a tough kid eating the biscuit as a tendy with that name.
Yeah, exactly. He brings it on himself too. You'd like his swag in the net. He doesn't mind the odd chirp after a glove save, and let a guy knows that he's owning him. And he's not super adept yet at handling it the other way, but he's only 12, so it's all good. That's part of the process. But no, thanks for the kind words. It's really fun to bring them there and travel with them, kind of one-on-one. And that was completely not planned. It was just that whole COVID thing. I don't know if you remember that COVID pandemic thing that was around for a little bit there.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
it kind of sucked. Really,
we were supposed to all be going to New York. I guess it would be in 2022, and Hudson was the only one that had the proper vaccination out of the two of them. So, anyways, we couldn't all go together. So it turned into a solo trip, and then that turned into let's make it just fair for everybody, and we'll do a solo trip every year for the first 3 years. So that's the genesis of that story. And if you come again next year, you'll get to meet TJ. So he's the next in line.
That's super cool. We were going to do the same thing the year of the COVID. We were going to bring the whole family. It didn't work out. So it just worked out with my son's school. I have a stepson named Phoenix. He's about to graduate. He's in year 5. He's doing like a shadowing program. He could be like, the top medical guy for a pro hockey team or college football, that kind of stuff.
Right.
So, him and his girlfriend came, and then our young daughter, Danny, is 15-year-old. And so we were able to bring them all. So that was super special. Daughter didn't remember me playing really much,
Right. Yeah, no, that is cool. I know Gunner was like really wide-eyed with a lot of stuff there. That's really fun for them. Special age too, like for my boys, like kind of like the perfect hockey age, right? Where they're big hockey fans and still innocent enough to, everything's a real big deal. So it's pretty fun. Your bro then, so he, like you mentioned the call you were on the other night. So he played professional as well. You said he went to college, but he ended up playing pro hockey too.
Yeah, my brother, we're both from Cambridge. We didn't play for our hometown Winterhawks Junior B. I went and played Tier 2 in Caledon, and he played for the Milton Merchants, different leagues. I went to the OHL, 19th overall pick as a defense, which the game's changed a lot. Couldn't skate out there with how fast they're moving now. But, my brother got drafted to North Bay as well and had a great camp, was leading the camp in scoring, but they weren't going to offer him any school money. Which I think is important to talk on here. If you go to camp, my dad had to pay his own way or he would have lost his eligibility. And so when they weren't going to offer any school money because he was an 11th rounder, he decided to go back to junior and won the whole thing. And then they went and played for I think it's the Royal Bank Cup, it's called. So they won whatever that is, the Provincial Junior A. And then they went to that and they ended up losing in that one. But, then he went to college. So he went and played at Union. And had a great college career and was the captain his last 2 years. And then my brother banged it out in the minors. That was when they were looking for size, like guys like us that are, 6'2", 6'3", and above. So he played in the East Coast League and did real well. Played a little bit in the AHL and then went to Europe for a bit and called it a day. So
that's cool. That's awesome. You mentioned earlier that you're from Cambridge and that everyone was telling you're crazy that you should have any type of lofty dreams or anything like that. What do you think that's specific to your town, or is that just the message you think most kids are hearing when they're trying to accomplish something big?
Well, you know how it is, buddy, man. There's so many naysayers in life. Small-minded people. They want you to hold you back and want you to stay in your little hometown, which I love my hometown, but. I'm a big believer in if you truly believe it and, and you work extremely hard for it and sacrifice the parties and all the different things that we had to sacrifice as athletes to make it, to get an edge, to get better. You can do anything, just like anything in life. I mean, I restarted over after retiring at 30, 39 and a half, almost 40, and business is going great too. So I'm just a big believer in going after what you believe in and working extremely hard for it. And when you do that, good things happen.
Well, yeah, well said. And so here's the counter question. But what if you don't make it?
Yeah, well, that's what they all say. Uh, why would he not go to Canadian University after, a 3-year OHL career when it's all paid for and then go play pro? Well, by the time you get out of that, you're a lot older. It's not exactly Division One. Your chances become a little slimmer. So I just was, the way I played, there was really no one left to fight, and I could have went back for overage. There was really no one left to fight. Like John Erskine was leaving, Kip Brennan, myself. Kippy was at the Islander thing. There was a bunch of guys like that, and no one wants to be a bully. I don't want to be picking on young kids. So I went and tried the pro game, and went to Lowell. Went to LA's camp, then Lowell. Had 3 fights in my first AHL exhibition game. 2 against Louis Bedard and then some other French guy. And a bunch of guys got sent down. We were a double affiliate back then with LA and the Islanders. So Bill Heward got sent down, great guy to me. Eric Cairns, guys like that. So they had a lot of tough guys. So Bruce Boudreau, Gabby, I used to have long blonde hair and I was a lot thinner than I am now. People used to call me a pretty boy, which usually would make the gloves come off pretty good. And he said I wouldn't really enjoy Trenton, which was our affiliate. So he coached in Biloxi, Mississippi for the Mississippi Seawolves the year before and won a Kelly Cup. And he was very close with everyone down there, had an older team. And I got to go to Biloxi, Mississippi and absolutely loved it and kind of was a call-up guy. When I get called up, they put me on forward and I go out and run around, didn't know what I was doing and fight these behemoths. And it didn't always go well. But, I go back down and get to play and kind of carved it out in the East Coast League for quite a while, kind of an up and down guy until I got to play with you, with Tom Rowe and them.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, okay, I totally want to get there, but I want to rewind though, just because my question there about like what happens if you don't make it, talking about goals and like.
Oh yeah, my bad. I got rambling late night.
Okay. I mean, I love the rambling, but the thing is like
we don't really think like that, right, Pogue?
Well, because it doesn't matter, and that's what I tell.
Exactly.
That's what I tell families, and I tell that kids. Like, and so what if you don't? Like, if you do the things that allow you to be your best, like the best that you know how, whatever that ability is, and let's say it's not an NHL jersey, let's say in this case, or for us, but you get to explore that, you get to push through shit, you get to get better, and all the things that happen with chasing something like. You telling me that's like you've lost anything? Like what you've learned, you've grown, you've won, right? Like, especially if it's something that you're passionate about, which I mean, for anyone who's chasing anything, I mean, that's obviously number one thing. You got to love what you're doing. And then the rest just takes care of itself. And it doesn't have to be the goal. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be the finish line that people think it is, or else you're a failure. I mean, I think that's the part that needs to get blown up. It's about the chase, I think,
That's right. It's all about the hunt, and couldn't agree more. The guys who don't end up chasing their dreams because they get in some little factory or cushy job or whatever, or go to school and, do something with that. They're the ones looking back at the end of the day like, man, they're those, I could have made it. Well, if you could have made it, you should have went and gave it your all and left it all on the table is how I look at it. I can't stand those kind of guys. So I'd rather go all in on something, like fully all in. Trevor Gillies, and I know you're the same way. I mean, anyone who plays at a high level, you got to be all in or you got to be all out. This is a wild world with a lot of great players, and it's very competitive. So I'm glad I chased my dream. I got to meet so many great people, travel the world. You learn so much, about punctuality and hard work and being part of a team, and everyone pushing and pulling for the good guys to win. it was super special time, and obviously now as we're old retired has-beens, we definitely miss all that.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, I couldn't agree more. And then, like with what I'm doing now, and like talking to these players, and some of them are making decisions, right? Like, what to do. Do I go to school? When do I go to school? Can I go to school? Should I go to the factory? Should I just grab a job? And I mean, I can't tell anyone what to do. I mean, they're going to have to make their own decisions. And the best part is trying to empower these players to make decisions that are going to work for them, and the first question is always, well, do you love it? And then they kind of uncover what that is. And if the question is like somehow close to a big, huge hell yes, then it's like you have all the time in the world to be an engineer, or all the time in the world to be an accountant, or whatever it is that you want to do. And there's obviously nothing wrong. Admirable jobs. Anything's an admirable job. And it's not that hockey's better, but you can only do hockey for a certain amount of time. Like you can't play it when you're 55. You can't just be like, oh, I'm going to go play now. Right. So that's the only thing that I say is like, you got this short window, right? It's pretty tight and
very tight window.
Yeah. And if you want to give her a go, then give her a go. And then you're not going to have any regrets. You're not going to be that guy that you already said that you don't, that you don't like those guys, right? Like go all in.
That's right.
And have some fun doing it. And if it doesn't work out, like I said, who gives a crap? That doesn't matter because you did what you loved and you did where your heart was. And I think there's no wrong when guys are doing that.
It's all about the man or the woman in the mirror. At the end of the day, if you gave it your all, you can look that man or that woman in the mirror proudly, instead of being a quitter. I'm all about the NFQ attitude. We won't get into what the F stands for, but pretty much never quit. So, that's what it takes in anything to be successful. Is I tell them all these kids, go pursue your dream. Like you said, there's tons of time to go work. You're going to work the rest of your life. So
what was that acronym you just said?
NFQ.
You can say it.
I don't want to swear, but
no F and quit.
Yes. Right. Never.
Going to take a short break from episode 105 with Trevor Gillies to share an awesome success story with you from the last cohort of the guided mission for the Peak Potential Hockey Project. So for those of you who haven't heard, the Peak Potential Hockey Project is a 4-week program, a mindset and personal development program for hockey players who either want to be amazing or who are trying to overcome confidence issues or the ability to recover from mistakes or improve practice habits. So there's kind of two types of players that seems to attract this program. One is the high achiever, the one that doesn't really necessarily see that there's any thing holding them back right now, but they do want to get better and they want to step into their true potential and find their greatness, and they are looking at mindset training as a competitive advantage. So there's definitely those players that participate in the Peak Potential Project with great success. And there's also players who come in because they are at some type of a crossroads where they feel like their confidence is low, or they're not able to recover from mistakes, or they are playing way too safe, or they aren't enjoying the game anymore, or they feel that their practice habits aren't good enough, or right? Like there's lots on that side of the fence that will draw a player to the program, and Dylan is the success story that we're going to share, and he's from the latest, like I said, the latest cohort of the Peak Potential Project, and when I call it a guided mission, that means that players from all across North America sign up for the program, and when I say all across, I mean that is true. Definitely, all four corners of North America have been represented. We even had a couple players from overseas participate, but usually it's a small sample size. It's a small group size. Usually between 5 and 10 players will participate in a guided mission. And the guided mission means that they get interaction with me throughout the program, and we have coaching calls at the end of each week where we get to go over the material, make sure they're applying it, make sure that all their questions are answered, and that they understand how to use the information moving forward, and how to build, as I call it, their own personal operating manual. So it's awesome. Every time I run one, I love it because there's so many great success stories. And at the end of the guided mission, I invite the parents to come on a call with me, an individual call with the player, and just to discuss the program and discuss how the journey went, and whether there was any noticeable results in the span of 4 weeks, which is how long this program is. And Dylan was a player that was playing midget. He was a first-year midget player, 15 years old, so playing with the 15, 16, 17-year-old players. And at this point in the season, and some had already turned 18. And he was one of 2 first years. And he was, as is the case with a lot of players who are competitive and who want to be their best and where it's about winning, he was super, super critical of himself, to the point that the game was not enjoyable. And that was when I had a phone call with his mother, Sherry, when they were trying to decide whether they were going to participate in the program or not. And there was some hesitancy and there was a little bit of uncertainty. And she shared with me what the game was like for Dylan at the time, and what it was like to be his mother at the time, and just how critical he was, that it turned into extreme negativity, lack of enjoyment. Couldn't see the good that he was doing or what he was doing out there that was productive and valuable, and you couldn't approach him after a game, and all these things were happening, and he just wasn't necessarily playing his best either. So he wasn't enjoying himself. He wasn't playing his best. He was not fun to be around. He himself wasn't having a good time. Had some low confidence issues, so they got going. And Dylan, in the span of, like I said, 4 weeks to 5 weeks, essentially did a complete 180. And the smile on his face now, and the smile on her face from the mom, and the stories that they were willing to share with how Dylan was able to use the material and the coaching within the program and be able to apply it, right? And that's what I kept saying during the call. I don't think you hear that on the clip that I'm going to share, but all the accolades for these turnarounds always go to the player. Yes, they are being provided with tools and perspectives and strategies within the program, and there is coaching support that is involved with that is definitely, a tool for them to move forward. But nothing's going to happen if the player doesn't apply it. If the player doesn't jump in with 2 feet and really give it an honest effort and commit 100% to their mental development and their mental fitness. And Dylan did that. And so I'm just going to share an edited clip of the half an hour that I spent with Sherry and Dylan through their words, right? Explaining what the program meant for them, to Dylan, to their relationship, and also what it meant to, for Dylan moving forward. This is a kid that wanted to be on the power play, had never been at this point. During the 4 weeks he was put on the power play. This is a kid that wasn't sure where he was going to play next year, but now has a new drive, a new love for the game, and is considering higher level options of where he wants to play. Without further introduction, I'll just let you listen to the clip here with Dylan and Sherry, and hopefully you can have a big smile on your face and by hearing, and if you're watching this on YouTube, seeing the joy in his face and how much of a difference this can make for some players. So here is Dylan and Sherry on the graduate call from the Peak Potential Hockey Project.
It was really emotional to be around Dylan after games. I mean, I'm obviously his biggest fan. It didn't matter how well he played or how well his team played. He was just very, very negative, to the point, like I told you, I didn't even want to be in the same vehicle. It was like, no one can talk. We can't bring up anything because it's just going to stir this whole emotional battle up. But since then, honestly, Jason, I have shared your program with so many of my friends, and just the impact that you have made on Dylan. We see it, his teammates see it. Like, for an example, Dylan took his best buddy aside, the only other first year on the team, and kind of preached your words to his teammate. He's been paying attention for sure.
It sounded like the game wasn't a lot of fun. Like it was something that you still cared about and was passionate about, but the games weren't that fun. Like after the games weren't that fun. You're so hard on yourself that it actually kind of wasn't enjoyable. Is that what you felt, Sherry?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. Before it would just be like, I'd go to the game and it'd be just whatever. Like I wouldn't be excited to go, but the past few weeks I've been really wanting to go. I've been excited to play. I've been looking forward to playing the game and not wanting it to end. Whereas before I'd be kind of counting down the minutes till I'd finish the game. yeah, the past 4 weeks, every single thing in this program has helped me improve.
I know last time we talked, you said, yeah, I would recommend this to other kids, but I don't really want to tell them about it. That was kind of the cutest thing ever. I loved it.
Yeah. His secret weapon.
That's something that you're happy you took part in?
Yeah, I'm really happy I got to learn everything. It was a real eye-opener. It really improved my game mentally. And honestly, even physically, because I would believe in myself more, and it pushed me to get better.
Has it, like, where has it impacted, have you seen, like, around the game, but also, if it has, like, outside of hockey?
Yeah, this is such a good thing you're bringing up. I just got together with my girlfriends, and I told them what I was doing with Dylan. And I did say, like, this is not just about hockey. It's life skills. I think that the kids can engage better because hockey's involved in it. But what you've offered are very powerful life skills for these kids and for Dylan, and it's been a game changer for him.
That's awesome.
The last 4 weeks have been an incredible change.
So fantastic stuff there from Dylan and Sherry. I mean, there's more, and obviously I could probably post that whole call, to be honest, and just, the interactions that we had and the progress that they made, and I couldn't fit it all in there. I understand you're here to listen to the Trevor Gillies interview, and we'll get right back to that. But just to put a bow on that, the momentum that can be created by giving players tools and perspectives and strategies and support that they didn't know were out there or didn't know existed can be game-changing. And I mean that in every sense of the word. Like, can be an absolute game changer like it was for Dylan. There was 3 or 4 others that had massive game-changing results too in this last cohort. Like, so exciting for me as a coach to see this. And I preach about the holistic development of the athlete, and I preach about how valuable personal development is, and when personal development strategies are applied to the hockey player, that the performance that these players get on the ice, the difference can be seen. Like, it's tangible, it's witnessed. People in the stands can see it that don't know that anything else is going on. So although I love what I do because I know that I'm creating better humans and giving them better strategies to be more productive and more successful and bigger contributors, in society. But the hockey side of me also gets super excited because this is the biggest competitive advantage that you can get in a short period of time. There's nothing else you can do. It's that simple. There's absolutely nothing else you can do in hockey, especially at some of these older ages and higher levels, that can get you the biggest results in that type of time. You can't take a shooting course, or you can't take, strength and conditioning, or you can't find a new stick handling routine or a power skating coach that is going to move the needle as much as you, as a player, can move the needle by shifting the way you interact with your thoughts and how you show up from a mental perspective. It's the biggest game changer. There's nothing else that can make that big of a movement. So if you are considering, and that's why this speaks to, like, the athlete that feels that there's nothing wrong, right? Like, this should, like, get you so curious that you want to think, what am I missing? Because you know what? You don't know what you don't know. You have to be a curious athlete if you want to perform at the highest levels on the biggest stages. You have to leave no stone unturned. And here is an opportunity with the Peak Potential Hockey Project to start training your mindset and start trying to see if there is something out there that you haven't thought of yet, that you haven't discovered, that you can maybe turn the volume up on a little bit more to give you these competitive advantages and get you the percentage points that you won't find anywhere else. And if you're somebody who's struggling, if you're somebody that does have something that is just an issue, like, you may not want to look in the mirror and admit it, but there's something there that isn't quite clicking, and you do know that you enjoy the game, and you do know you want to be better at it, and you do know that there's bigger things for you to come, this is like auto response, yes. Find something or somebody or some program that you can look into to see if this is going to work for you. Obviously, you're listening to this podcast, so it makes sense that it would be an Up My Hockey product, and the Peak Potential Project has been proven time and time again to get great results. So if you are one of those players, get into the next program, the guided mission, or get the solo mission and just take the course, the content yourself. Whatever the case may be, you are being foolish if you are not investing into your mindset. So thanks for Dylan and Sherry there for being willing to share your success with everyone here. And now let's get back to the interview with Trevor Gillies. Well, because was there any times, and again, like I enjoy having these chats because I know there was times me being an AHLer.
You were one hell of a player, I could tell you that.
Oh, well, thanks. But being an AHLer and like getting to a spot where I was like, well, geez, I mean, like, what's going wrong or why aren't I not going up? And like kind of getting to that headspace of, I don't know, let's say a poor me kind of, right? Like, oh, damn, and then kind of losing some of that fire that I've just been talking about because the things aren't going the way you want to go. For me, that meant going to Europe, which I thought I was going to come back. Right. I was like, okay, I'm going to go reinvent myself. I'm going to come back, give it another shot. Europe was such a great experience. I was like, well, I guess I'm here. I'm going to do that. But I bring that up is because, I don't know what it felt like to be in the coast, and grinding it out there. Like you even said that you were, like, which would seem 3 million miles away from wearing a jersey for the Islanders,
Yeah. Well,
like how did you go through that? Like when you're in that spot, are you just proud to be a pro hockey player, or are you still keeping those big dreams? Was that part of it?
Well, luckily I had a lot of great old players on my team that said, hey kid, keep doing what you're doing, stay on the bike, stay in the gym, you're young, you're going to get the shot, keep working hard. So, but they don't call it the ECHL, stands for easy come hard leave for nothing. Unless you're getting, top scorer back in those days, or you're, or if you look at the list of who actually made it up to the AHL or the NHL, it's usually like you got to be a superb superstar for that level. Then you're going to have to change your game at the AHL level because they already got those top guys from Canada, US, Europe, or tough guys or goalies. So I kind of, did my homework on that, and I wasn't confused. I knew I wasn't going to make it as a player, getting, barely any goals or points. So I just tried to grow my box, and, I just kept working and just trying to get to that. It wasn't like I'm going from the East Coast League to the NHL. It's all about steps. So try to be a call-up guy early on and do well. And then, hopefully you can get to that point where you can play, 20, 25 games. It's enough of a sample size to be able to try to get an AHL contract, a one-way where it's guaranteed. And then, then you got to go and still do the job, right? Fight all the top guys. And then you're trying to, get a little bit more pay and hopefully, because when you're a call up, you're not making much and you're fighting giants. It's not easy. You're living in a hotel, it's you're barely scraping by, to be honest. And then you get that first NHL two-way and you just keep going. Fortunately it all worked out.
Was there any moments there, like, because I think that's usually when I talk with players, usually the darkest times, like, that you can get through, are the times that are the most meaningful and like consequential to the success of somebody. Was there any moments like that early on where you're like, what the hell am I doing? Like, why am I here? Like, should I be doing something else?
Well, I don't know if you remember when I got called up to Lowell when Tom took over as head coach. I love Tom Rowe. We don't talk as much as I would like. He lives in Charleston now, but Tom bagged me every single day. Like, we'd have the practice with the boys, and then everyone get off, and guys would have a cold tub or have a workout or sit in the lounge or go home and go eat with the boys, whatever. But I was still on the ice for like an hour, if you remember correctly. I remember all you skilled guys like looking, going, oh. He had a stopwatch out. I mean, he's putting me through the paces, and I would I couldn't, like, I'd be laid out on the ice, and then I'd go eat something and go back to the hotel. So, but, I never thought like that. I was just like, well, he's really investing this time, his own personal time, because I never played forward. Like, I don't want to let this guy down. I don't want to let my brother, the guys in the room, I'm a call up. So it's not like I'm super close with everybody, but everyone was nice. You were one of the real nice ones to me. And, you just want to, just like everyone else, we're all trying to get better every day. And just keep grinding. My goal was always to try to become 0.5% better every day. And to be honest, you fail, most of the days. But if you continue with that mentality, you are going to get better. It's like heating up steel, or our blades when we used to have to curve them before the patterns came out. You got to heat it up, and if you heat it too much, well then it's probably gonna melt. But tweak it nice, and you got a nice little pattern. So now I was just a firm believer in like, hey man, I'm gonna see what happens, and just give her.
Yeah.
And but yeah, when you're in the minors a long time, to really answer your question, I got called up and got knocked out by Derek Bugard. May he rest in peace, and condolences to his family and friends. The guy was an absolute monster. I mean, I'm not a small guy, and he made me look like a child fighting him. So big, so long, so rangy, and so I got my shot, but I didn't. My philosophy was like, you're going to make me or break me. Well, he broke me. So after I got better, I went back down to the AHL in Portland and fought everyone, and just hoping, if I continue to be a top guy at that level for my job, maybe I'll get another shot. And it kind of got to that point where you're just like kind of almost like you're a little, not angry, but you're a little bitter that you see all these young dudes that you're smashing, they're getting the shot and they're staying. So I just kind of really embraced that, like, high paid babysitter of protecting the young talent, the prospects, and try to be the best teammate and best in the community and best at the job, and just hoping, that it would work out. And fortunately, I got the call at 31 years old on my 31st birthday to play for the Islanders. So, very, very fortunate, and have a lot of gratitude for that.
That's fantastic, man. 31. So let's rewind to Lowell. So like I said, that was, and for you, so that was first pro season. But we're in Mississippi, so that was like your first call up to the A. So obviously, a big deal.
So what years did I play with you, Pots?
99, 2000.
Okay, yeah. So that was my first year. Okay, I wasn't sure if I played with you my second. I've been hit a lot. So yeah, go ahead. Now,
yeah. So just Lowell, right? So that was like Y2K. The whole world was supposed to melt down on New Year's there that year, and I can't remember if it was the second half or the first half that you came up, but. Anyways, just for people listening, so you're in the coast, you had 200 penalty minutes that year looking at DB in 53 games, you get called up, you have 38 penalty minutes with us and 8. I imagine you probably weren't in the lineup every game, so you're probably there longer than the 8 games. So you're in and out battling. That's a call up. Like, that's a big deal. That's why, you're grateful for the opportunity, and you're also almost probably grateful that you're getting bagged out there. What was your, like, in a youthful mindset there? Like, what was that mentality? Did you know at that point, like, the value of how to even play that role, or how to be a good teammate in that environment?
To be honest, I was a kid, man. So, like, it's kind of like, it's not hard to look at the stats pack, the game notes, we call them in pro hockey, and see a guy, by the name of, when we played Quebec, Darcy Harris has barely any points, 6'3", big weight compared to the skill players, and he has like a huge amount of penalty minutes. And so, like, I didn't know anyone because YouTube and all that stuff wasn't around back then. So it's really hard to, this is before DVD and, and being able to watch anything on the planet on YouTube or Google. So, I'm a young kid, and people are like looking at me like I had blonde hair. It was like, dyed
you were a beauty.
And all that. Yeah. And like everyone in the, I walk in, we had a pretty skilled team, right? But we didn't have a whole lot of meat and potatoes. Ryan Bass was there. He was pretty tough. I liked him. Hacking and whacking, big D man. But everyone's kind of like looking at me like, who the hell is this guy? And and you guys have already had some guys like Mitch Fritz and Stevie McIntyre, like some of these guys that ended up being killers as they developed with age, just like myself, that were young guns, right? And Tom or the team or whoever is bringing in guys to kind of mix it up, maybe create some energy and try to turn the tide. We had a lot of skill, but we were kind of getting pushed around. So, I was like a baby-faced assassin and just shaved. So luckily you're not seeing all the grays. But, I remember like my first game, I fought Darcy Harris and Joel Theriault, I believe. And I remember grabbing that Theriault grabbed me, and I was just thinking in my head, I'm like, oh boy, like I'm in trouble here. Like, so I'm just fighting out of fear, just chucking the left hand. And didn't land too many, I don't think. Didn't win that one. But I remember thinking, oh boy, like I'm gonna have to really get stronger, or this might not be a long career. So it was great, but just like you said, I mean, it's that was the next step, right? And I was probably there about 20, 25 games, like you said, in and out of the lineup, mostly out of the lineup, bag skating. But it gave me that taste, like and also a lot of lessons, like, oh boy, like these dudes are a lot different than the East Coast League 30-something-year-olds I'm fighting.
Right.
And it's like that at every level. The passes get crispier, crispy rice, I call it. The guys are just a little bit better. They're a little bit more in position. It's just everything's just a little bit better every way. It was a great learning experience. And that ice, I mean, I don't know if you remember, like out of all the years I played pro, that might be some of the best ice I ever skated on. I mean, we didn't have to fill the rink too much with the fans. It was pretty bare, but that ice was incredible there, and we had a great gym. It was a pretty cool setup for a tough town.
Yeah. That's where I drove the Zamboni, the only time ever in my life. I don't know why.
Oh, that's cool. I never got to drive a Zamboni. That's cool.
I got tight with the rinky there, and anyways, he ended up letting me clean the ice one day. It was pretty funny driving around. Well, you know what? Like I don't bring this up because I want me to look good, but I think it's relevant to the fact of like the relevance of you doing what you did at 31 and how you stayed relevant in the league, and I know it's important to you, like the value of being a good teammate and what that means, and you said that I was one of the guys that was nice to you, and I remember you brought that up at the Islanders, and I don't know what that means, right? I don't know what I did or if there was anything consequential, but like if you were to describe sort of that interaction, I think those moments when you are a younger player, I mean, I was only 4 years older than you, I think, or maybe 3, but you know how that works in the hockey world too, right? Like a 4-year pro compared to a 1-year pro, the guy seems like he's ancient and been around forever, right? So
that's true. Yeah.
So anyways, just maybe like talk about that a little bit, like what that impact was like, and if that was at all influential for you, like later on as you became an older player and how to treat guys coming in.
No, it very much is. Back then in 99, 2000, before Y2K or whatever you said, and everything was going to melt. I love that. It was a little different. It was the more of the old school pro mentality, like on the bus, like face the front rook, speak when spoken to type deal. So, when you come in and you're a call up, I mean, realistically, you're taking a European or someone who's already there spot, because they wanted to interject some life and toughness and wild blonde hair, I guess, flowing around. But, some guys don't say a word to you when you walk into the locker room with your East Coast bag. But, some are also, very welcoming and like, hey, good to have you. Hey, I'm Jason Podol. And like, it's like that kind of stuff, so you remember that when you're a young pro, because then you're like, well, I'll show these fucking guys, the other guys who aren't cool. Like they look at me like, who the hell's this guy? He's going to be here for 2 days and he's gone. So, that goes a long way. So I like always was that first guy, like every guy who got called up or got traded, you want to make them feel welcome. It's like a family, right? So, and if you don't have that, like it's like everyone's a piece to the puzzle, whether you're the top scorer or you're the top goalie or you're the tough guy, you might be a smaller piece. At the end of the year, if you don't have all the pieces, you're probably not going to make playoffs and you're definitely not going to go on a run. I mean, you can't win anything with just talent. So, I'm a firm believer in that. So like try to get everyone where we're going out for lunches together or golf or playing cards, and it's team building. Every business does it. So it's very important in hockey. And so I always remember those good guys. And I was like, I'm always going to be that guy, be the last one to sign autographs. I don't care if I'm there for an hour, that helps keep you in the game if you're loved by the fans and a fan favorite. And just being a good teammate, right? With our role, guys who did my role, it's a very selfless job. I mean, you're going to be fighting some nights without any skin on you. I can't even straighten my fingers, like that's all I got. That's it. So, you're fighting with banged up shoulder, hands, no skin on your fingers. I mean, but, you're doing the dirty work. So hopefully the good guys can win. And it's like being a big brother if you have younger brothers. I was raised to make sure that nothing happened to my brother or sister. And it's very much the same mentality in hockey. It's the last sport that you can fight with bare knuckles, and it's celebrated.
Right.
It's kind of wild. And so, it's just, if everyone, you're not going to love everybody, but you definitely got to respect them and be willing to go to war for the guy next to you. Right. And that team, there's no I in team. That's huge. So yeah, I mean, I rambled a little bit there, but super honored to have played with just so many great people.
Yeah, no, for sure. The you bring that up, just even like something simple as walking across the room and introducing yourself or welcoming a guy to a team, or whatever that conversation might be like, can be impactful. And especially, like, I think one of the things that maybe guys don't recognize, and I'm not saying that's why I would have done it, but like the impact you can make, especially as somebody that has been established somewhere. Like, I remember, like, when I got called up to the NHL, like, these are some of your heroes now at this point, right? That
Exactly.
that you've been around, and for that guy to come across and sit next to you in your seat, and next in your stall, and say, "Hey, man, like, welcome," and like takes the time. It's like that's a conversation huge. That you remember forever, and it's like
100%.
I've told it on here before. I've never told you before, but like one of the examples of that was me going to Detroit Red Wings camp. This is after I played my NHL time and everything else. I was like 30 years old. It was the last pro camp that I went to, and Chris Chelios walked across the room. Obviously Hall of Famer, one of the best defensemen to ever play, and shakes my hand and invites me out for lunch and takes me to his chili bar. Like, me, him, and one other guy, right? Like, he had no idea who I was. Like, I'll remember that forever. He had no reason to do that. And that experience also encapsulated what the Detroit Red Wings were like at that time, right? You talk about team, you talk about unity, you talk about bonding, like they had it going on there in spades. And I think that was a big reason why they were so successful. But to your point, like, me coming over there and saying that I think I was the leading scorer that year, like, that was probably
you were
cool, right? Like, oh, there's a guy, he's one of the guys, and he's taking the time out to say hi and maybe invite you to lunch or whatever. I don't remember all the scenarios, but just those little small, like, be a good person, right? And that's
exactly
something that you pride yourself in. And I guess why I brought that up is because, like, it starts early. Like, my youngest son, now that we've talked about already, or my oldest, I should say, Hudson. He's on a AA team this year. He was AP'd with the AAA team, and so in that little AA category, he has players coming up that practice with them or will play with them sometimes from single A, and he also had the opportunity to go up and practice with the big boys, the AAA guys, right? Yeah. And so I asked him, right? So I asked questions to try and get him to think, and I'm like, "Oh, so how'd you feel in the dressing room? Like, when you went up there?" And he goes, "Oh, I felt great. Like, they all came in and introduced themselves, and they got me a jersey." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, how'd that make you feel?" He's like, "It felt awesome." He goes, "I don't do that with the guys that come up for my practice." So, like, he was able now to connect the dots that like he didn't take those steps, and now he feels like what that difference that made for him. And so we had that conversation. Well, now you know what to do next time, right? Like,
that's right. Yeah, he's developing. Yeah, that's great. That's incredible. It's a great game for many reasons, and that's part of it. Being a good teammate is absolutely huge if you want to, especially if you don't have a ton of talent. If you're not a great teammate and you're a bottom end of the totem pole guy, fourth line guy, you're probably not going to be there very long. And so, whether you're the superstar, that's super cool story about Chris Chelios. I have some stories like that too over the years. That's incredible. And that's what's great about this game. There's not many bad guys in the game of hockey. It's a very humbling sport.
Yeah. And that's what I say just about the ability to impact, like, even the junior guys that I work with now, even when I was actually, to be quite frank, like coaching my U13 A team in Vernon, right? It's like teaching those guys this vehicle called hockey, because it's so super, like, respected and elevated, to whether that's to a fault or not in Canada, but it is. And you have an ability to impact, like, these 12-year-old kids can impact these U9s and U11s by taking the time out, and we go to practice with them and ask them how their game was or who their favorite player was, right? Like, now that kid is like, "Oh my gosh, like, that U13 Mustang just talked to me," like,
yeah, exactly.
And that's just about being a good person, and that's just about caring and just kind of understanding the impact that you're able to make. And I think the quicker that we can understand that, and you don't have to be a hockey player, obviously, to make an impact, that you can do that at a grocery store. Like, it's funny when same thing, like we'll be doing whatever, and I'll be with the boys, and there'll be like an experience that you'll have in a customer service relationship and be like, that person was really good, weren't they? Like, they were really special at what they did. Like, did you feel like looked after? Did you feel like cared for? Did you feel valued? And yes. And it's like, well, awesome, right? Like, that's what it takes, and I think, learning that side of it, which I'm super passionate about just in the hockey realm, because yeah, you need to shoot the puck, and yeah, you need to be able to skate, but shit, man, like if you can take care of your teammates, if you can understand the impact you can have in the community you're in, if you can be able to relate to your coaches, and I mean, all that stuff, it's like, man, you're just adding value, right? Like, you're adding value, and that makes you more valuable. I mean, that's the flip side of it, right? Like, so I don't know. I get kind of fired up on that stuff.
No, I love it. I mean, I couldn't agree more. I mean, being a good person is huge. And you're obviously teaching your boys just by even talking to that person at the counter, with customer service, how great of a job they did, how they made you feel, providing value. It's gratitude, and that stuff's contagious. It's people should be holding doors. So there's so many little things, right, that a lot of people don't do anymore. But hockey can teach some great life lessons.
100%. I want to talk about the first game, because I think there's got to be some awesome story here. Maybe you already told it with the Bugard. I'm not 100% sure, but I think you played like 5-6 years, if I did my math correctly, up and down East Coast League, AHL, doing your thing. I think you had 2 years. Looks like you were 2 years steady in the AHL, like where you kind of established yourself there as an AHLer and got out of the East Coast grind. And then you got your first game, 2005, 2006 with the Anaheim Ducks, and you got 21 PIMs in that game. And then it was a while until you got back, right? Like, then we're talking about
long while.
2010, 2011, right? So you got your one taste, and you got your 21 minutes. Is that the story that you already told about the Derek Bugard?
Yeah, that's when I got dropped. But we won't talk about the fight. I mean, anyone can see that, and that's not really relevant here with what we're talking about, and just the feelings, right? How the people made you feel. How did you feel? It's deeper than that. So like when you go out for warm-ups for your first National Hockey League game, and that boyhood dream and all that hard work and sacrifice becomes a reality. There wasn't one hair on my body that wasn't standing up, on the back of my neck, my arms. I mean, it's wild. The feeling. And then standing there for the anthem, is like, it's hard, you're not letting tears out, but it's kind of an emotional experience. So, and it's tough, especially with what I did. That adrenaline's going, right? So, you got to manage that adrenaline, because you can have a major adrenaline dump, and that's always tough. So, no, it was incredible, man. I mean, there's just looking around, a couple of the other tough guys had already kind of been taken out by Bugard. He was a duck killer. He was pretty much a killer of everybody. And so I was the guy in the AHL, and had a bunch of fights already, like, I don't know, 6 or 8 in the first little bit, and got the call. So I knew exactly what I was told. I mean, I got called into the coach's office. We were watching tape. I had already watched tape. I knew what my job was. So I had asked him, and he would just kind of, blew me off. And I don't think I should have got an instigator, but we kind of banged into each other on the wall. And I wasn't taking no for an answer. I didn't ask. It just right away, we're going. And so I was doing well. And to be honest, he has a long reach, and I missed my grab because he'd already tagged me with a couple. And, I'm a lefty, but I was reaching with my right hand, and he kind of sized me up. I missed the second time. And it was like going to your top steakhouse in America, like whether it's Chicago, New York, Toronto, BC, wherever it is, and getting, the Wagyu or the filet, and you got that nice garlic butter on the top, and you don't even need a knife. You don't need to saw the steak. It's just like you push through it. It was that perfect. I couldn't tell you if the punch hurt. It was probably the hardest one I ever took, one of them. I don't remember some of that. I've watched it, obviously, a lot of times. It was just a perfectly placed shot. And, like I said, make me or break me. And, if I would have won, I probably would have been there for a while. But to be honest, everything happens for a reason by the big guy upstairs. And I wasn't ready, to be honest. I was more of a toe-to-toe guy back then. And, when you're young, you think you're invincible, and wasn't really doing triangle blocks or cross grabs and all the different stuff, moving away from the power, just standing in the pocket, right? And that's never a good recipe when you're fighting someone with much longer arms.
Right.
Hockey fighting is a push-pull. So, it made me better. I had to get better if I wanted to ever get another shot and be a lot more talented. So, paid a lot of people, fight coaches here locally, 3 different ones, and made it where I wasn't getting hit and taking that punishment by absolute giants. So, but it was an incredible experience and something, I'm fortunate that I got to experience. I have many, many friends and people I know that literally would cut off their cojones to get that one game, right? And some of them were better players than me and just as tough that never got that opportunity. So even if it would have only been that game, I mean, that would have been a little tough to swallow, getting the call and get knocked out. But I still would have been very, very fortunate for it. So yeah, no, everything happens for a reason. It was super cool. I mean, we had like Timu Solani on the team, Pronger, Niedermeyer, I mean, Jaguar. I mean, this is a who's who. It was pretty wild lineup to be in. So, to be a guy that, battled it out in the coast to now realizing your dream was super special, regardless of the outcome in the fight.
That's bonkers. Like, what a story. Holy smokes. Like to be at it that long, to get that call, and then to have that experience with, like you said, like one of the biggest, baddest to play at the time, the boogeyman.
Yeah.
And then to not have like 5 more years, like that is crazy. And then like go back to the drawing board, and like you said, to hire the guys and to take that as like with a growth mindset, like something that I talk about here all the time, right? Like what did that teach you? I mean, if you want to find what it taught you, you'll get an answer. You got to ask the right questions. Like that's one thing I always talk to my players about, right? Like, what did I learn there? What could I do better? What can I improve? How do I level up? You mean your brain will answer that instead of saying, why did I fuck it up? Why did I get knocked out? Why is that guy stronger than me? You know what I mean? Like you can have your questions tell you whatever you want, and that's kind of the power of the mind of where you want to direct it. And it sounds like you directed it where it needed to go, and were able to kind of reinvent yourself a little bit, add some layers to your game that made you better at your craft, and that's super admirable. Is there any memories from that first game? Like, you're talking about standing on the bench, but we also talked about guys making a difference, and you had some big people in that room. Are there any little anecdotes or stories
they were all just so welcoming? I mean, like Timu Solani is one of the nicest human beings you'll ever meet in your life. I mean, you would never know the guy was scoring all those goals and playing that long. I mean, you had Corey Perry and Ryan Getzlaff, and Zenon Konopka is a dear friend of mine. He was there. I mean, it was awesome. I mean, everyone was great. I mean, obviously it didn't end the way I would have liked, but right. Like you said, it's that never quit mentality, and this is how I feed my family. So after I got off of the concussion, about 3 weeks, it was my first real one. Went back down to the AHL, and was getting back ready, and first game, first shift, you gotta show the boys that you're there for them, and they're not like, oh geez, our tough guy's got a bad head, and then they play a couple inches smaller and 10-20 pounds lighter. So I went out and did the job right away, and just kind of stayed on it. Probably shouldn't have.
Let's stop there for a second, because there's got to be, like you said, it was your first real one. We haven't really got into the psychology of being a fighter. A lot of guys have different ways. Some guys enjoy it. There's not that many that actually do. Some guys have more anxiety about it. I don't really want to. We can get into that, but like just saying, so that job in and of itself, there's some anxiety that other players don't have. Like just in it. Now you add that layer on. Now you've had actually a real injury. Now you're there. Without question, I don't care who you are, there has to be some type of doubt in your head about what this is going to mean to me and what this means to my career. And now you're back out there, like you said, 3 weeks later, and you're going to do it again. Like, what was that build up like to that first game?
Well, I'd already been training. I hadn't been taking punches to the head, but, they made sure that I was good, and, hitting the bag and bagging with Kevin Deneen was our coach, and, getting back ready. And, I felt confident that, it was going to go well. I mean, as a fighter, if you ever think, like, if you're ever tentative, passive, and you're probably going to be looking up at the lights. I mean, it's a heavyweight division, whether it's the East Coast, the AHL. I mean, punches aren't vitamins, and it only takes like 4 pounds of pressure to be knocked out with a perfect shot. Like a baby could knock you out if you're not expecting it, and you turn your head and they hit you with a shin. So, it was just kind of like that cowboy mentality, right? Like I'm a city boy from Ontario, but it's like you got to hop back on the horse or the bull. You got to rope and ride, right? That's your job. So it'd be like a skilled guy. He hurt his wrist and he can't shoot the puck. Well, he's probably not going to score many goals. So, I wasn't confused. I knew what I had to do, and I definitely wanted my guys to know that okay, Gills is all right. He's back, and just kind of stayed on it. But yeah, you're right. I mean, fighting is hard physically. I loved my job. I mean, I'm one of the rare ones that loved every minute of it. Took great pride in it. But it definitely is tougher mentally, especially when you're coming off of something like that. You're like, I got to have a good one here. Like you said, I mean, if I get tagged again and have 2 concussions, just say I got another one shortly thereafter, well then, my career could be in major jeopardy. You only get one brain, right? So, fortunately, honestly, that I'm left-handed, because it truly is an advantage.
Right.
Because, the majority of guys are right-handed.
Take another short break from the conversation with Trevor Gillies to give a shout out to Graham, my Instagram buddy, who reaches out from time to time and just acknowledges the podcast or shares some tidbit. And he wrote to me the other day, just kind of out of the blue. He said, "You're killing it with the interviews lately. Editing yourself better while still including important parts of your own story. It's only a matter of time before bigger places start to notice if they haven't already. The Turgeon interview was great. The Needham was awesome. The Sutter was epic." So super cool. I mean, I always appreciate notes like that. I am grateful, that someone takes the time to listen and to give me that type of feedback, and even to let me know that maybe I'm conducting the interviews better, or there's things that you notice that are coming across a little cleaner. So that's great. And I will speak to the thing about it's only a matter of time before bigger places start to notice. So I don't know, like with me. And when it comes to goals, or at least with this podcast, like I honestly don't have a goal. It's not like I'm doing this because I want, a Spotify contract or some huge major sponsor. I don't want to be picked up by TSN. Like none of those are what move me to do this. It's people like Graham who enjoy it. It's being able to provide value to players and parents out there who are trying to navigate the journey. It's about getting ideas and concepts and thoughts about the good of the game and what we can learn from it. And it's also selfishly for my own benefit. I've shared on here how much joy and satisfaction I get out of the conversations, that generally speaking, I am more of an introverted type of person. I don't get out. I'm not a social butterfly. I'm not running around, in meet and greets and that sort of thing. And generally I'm pretty solitary, but I do really enjoy a conversation. I really enjoy a good, deep, meaningful conversation. So this podcast has allowed me to nurture that part of myself, to have these conversations, like 90 minutes a week almost is generally how long it is with somebody who's been along the journey or on the path or somewhere a part of it, and can share some knowledge with you all. And for me, that's the goal. And that's generally the way that I operate. I'm not a huge metrics guy. It's nice to have some metrics involved just to know that, you are growing or things are happening. But I find when I put that first, or if that was my big goal of bigger people noticing, then that's when maybe frustration sets in, or that's when, what you start doing as far as your action items start to change, and the motivation for why you're doing it changes. So I just believe in organic growth. I really do. Of course, there's strategies and business things that you can do to help that along, but I just try and do the best that I can. I'm trying to be consistent. I'm trying to keep the authenticity of what it is I'm doing and why I'm doing it, and just staying super humble and grateful to the process. And it's amazing that it has grown. It's amazing the connections from the people that I've made or the people that have reached out to want to work with me, want me to speak at places, want me to address their team or to be a part of their program or their association. And that's fantastic. Like that's to me is the beauty of all this, that that these conversations allow young athletes to be empowered. So my conversation with Trevor Gillies here today, you might be listening to this in who knows where in Boston, Mass, and you're like, you know what? We need this. Our team needs this, or my son or daughter needs this, or my prep school should know about this. And you make a call to me, or you make a call to that prep school, and someone calls me up, and now all of a sudden there's one more, or a handful, or a team full, or an academy full of players who are getting served these skills and these strategies in a supported way that empowers them. Like, that is so cool. So yeah, I mean, as far as the bigger things coming there, Graham, I mean, I really appreciate that sentiment, but just recognize that I don't deem the podcast any type of a failure, or myself any type of a failure, if that doesn't happen. That's not the goal for me, but it is people like you, Graham, and those of you who are listening who do appreciate what the content is and what I'm all about, that are willing to have your own conversations, you know, about the content within, or about the podcast itself, and, you know, and sharing it, or writing the review, or putting it on your Facebook page for your minor hockey association. I mean, these are the things that I think help people notice. And it's not about noticing the podcast and growing the podcast. It's about growing the message. So that's where I just want to apply some clarity here, that better humans make better hockey players, and better humans make more successful hockey players, and more empowered and more confident and more self-aware people are better contributors in their community and in their associations. So I believe the message here helps everybody, and I believe that it applies to everyone. So the sad part is that it's not the grounding, foundational position of a lot of people who are involved in whatever it is, whether it be business or whether it be hockey or what have you. So kind of these fundamental, you know, old school kind of principles, I think are becoming much more relevant. And yeah, so if this message speaks to you, if this program speaks to you, thank you so much. And if you want to do your part to help getting the message out and getting the content into the hands of young men and women who want to be their best, then by all means, that'd be a great way to support it. So without further ado, we'll get you back into the podcast here with Trevor Gillies, and thank you so much for listening today. So interesting. So yeah, I mean, you like there's a psychology to that, and I think that it sounds like you're being super authentic with yours, and definitely a warrior type of fortitude there, and not really much doubt, really not really much self-doubt, just because for whatever reason, whether that's just ingrained with you in the DNA or whether you just need
maybe it's just being a little not so bright, but you know, you just got to do it. That's the job. You know, if you don't, then there's a bunch of other young guys, well, at least back in the day before the game changed, that will gladly come up for a lot less money to get that same opportunity that I was trying to get back in the day. So, you know, it's just like there's always wolves at your back. I mean, it's just like you as a top scorer on our team, right? You know, once you get to a certain age, you know, you got to provide value by helping other young players, whether it's developing or showing them stuff and being a great teammate. Well, it's the same thing in my job. I mean, there's tons of young guys that would want to have that opportunity to try to get that NHL game or be an AHLer instead of an East Coast League player. So it's, you know, you either going to do it or you're going to lose your job. So it's plain. It's that line in the sand. I mean, it's that plain.
You wanted the job.
Yeah, I mean, I had kids, you know, I had a kid and one kid at the time, and I mean, you know, I didn't want to go back to the East Coast League.
All right. just it made me think of it, and kind of it's sort of irrelevant, I guess, just my own curiosity. So you said that you loved it, right? So like there's a combative, you know, like nature to you, obviously, to enjoy that as much as you did. Leaving the game, like is that wolf still need to be fed sometimes? Like do you miss the aspect of being able to drop the gloves, or where does that leave you now?
Oh yeah, no, I definitely miss it. You know, it's the ultimate form of competition, you know, one-on-one, you know, dropping the mitts, squaring off. And it's also the ultimate deterrent. So, I mean, it's a major adrenaline rush. And in the real, whether you get a big deal or whatever it is, it's you're never going to feel that again, you know, and just realizing, you know, there's lots of great things in life, and blessings is just the little wins, right? Every day, like going, you know, making your bed right when you get up. I'm a big believer in that. You know, going to the gym and getting those natural endorphins going and getting in a good mood. And you know, this is a lifestyle that we're doing. Like, look at you, you're still ripped up like a bad report card, in great shape. So you know, I miss it for sure. Because it's like a drug, you know, adrenaline is like wild. And you know, whether you win or lose, it's, you know, the adrenaline, you don't even feel it until after the game. It might suck. You know, but no, I miss the physicality.
Were you one of those guys who, I guess, like where I'm sort of going with it a little bit is like, because I played obviously, you know, lots of teams too, and played with a lot of tough guys. Some guys were a little wild off the ice too. Like they were the same guys that kind of were didn't mind looking for stuff. It was actually fun for them, right? And other guys, I mean, didn't wanted nothing to do with it. Were you how did your on ice persona affect your off ice stuff?
Yeah, no, you know, you got to stay away from all that, or you know, you're gonna go to jail, and you're never, and you're never gonna win in a court case if, you know, all of a sudden they're looking up your fights on YouTube and they see that, you know, you had one goal and you had 300 minutes or 270, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You're not gonna get the benefit of the doubt whether the guy starts it or not. So
Yeah.
you know, you just try to stay out of those situations and you know, be kind of very calm, if you can, off the ice, where, you know, it's definitely a good question. I mean, it's you know, you get a little too much booze in you, you might get a little bit wild and just try to leave the place.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Yeah, because I mean, we've been, I mean, we've seen enough stuff, you know, away, and I think for you guys too. Like I never, like me going to a bar or whatever, or to a club and being recognized or whatever. Like no one was like, I'm going to test that guy out. You know what I mean? Like there was none of that, right? Like, of course I would drop the gloves a little bit, but I wasn't known for that, right? I just was around guys too. Like you'd get the donkey in the bar to come out and, you know, like wants a piece of, you know, Trevor Gillies or Greg Smith or, you know, Sean Thornton or whoever that guy is at the time that I'm playing with, right? Like you guys have to deal with that like way more. And anyways, it makes a bit of a challenge. But I mean, I hear what you're saying there.
Well, the one good thing though is usually when a hockey team goes out, you know, you're running 15 to 20 something deep. Be a pretty bad mistake by some hometown hero to try to mess with an army.
Yeah,
you know, so usually you can de-escalate things pretty fast and grab it, you know, whether it's a skill guy going after some girl or something, and you know, just being like, hey, we got to go, you know, just kind of that band of brothers stick together, like, let's get out of here and go get some street meat and go home, play cards or video games or something.
Yeah, no, for sure. The okay, so the Bugard experience happens. You go back down 5 more years in you know, in the minors. It looks like if an established AHL player at that point. So I mean, you weren't going down, and then you get the call up again. So I want to talk about the Islanders, but I also want to talk about Trevor Gillies from the time I met Trevor Gillies with the wild blonde hair and the young kid, and he's like, you know, like being a wild child to, you know, it's almost 10 years later, right? Like, because I know that we all go through these kind of metamorphoses or these evolutions of understanding how we fit, you know, what our personality is and how does that personality fit into the team, you know, and are we being too big, too bold? You know, like there's some things that happen, right, with maturity and everything else. Like, can you cross-reference that? You know, Trevor Gillies from 2000 to Trevor Gillies from 2010, like when you got that next opportunity?
It's a lot of, yeah. I mean, you're young, you got that piss and vinegar, you're like a young gunslinger, right? Like you don't know any better. Like there's a lot more to this job. Like learning when the right time is to fight, when it's not. We might be up a couple goals. You might have to tell a guy, no, not right now. You don't want to swing the momentum. I got to play for Marty McSorley in 02, 03, and he was one of my idols. And obviously, Protect Gretzky, everyone knows who Marty McSorley is. But a phenomenal guy. He was amazing for me. He'd be working with me after practice, like kind of taught me the ins and outs of the role, when to do it, when not to do it. Some of that stuff on the bench, like, getting in guys' ears, being real intense. And they're like, and some of that, you don't always have to fight to do a great job of being there for your teammates. It's like deflecting a lot of the mental and chirping, taking it all on as the tough guy. So your skill players are just like, oh, Gil's got this. Like, we'll just go out and play. There's so many different scenarios, but when that's the biggest difference is learning the role the right way, instead of just, going to try to fight everybody. But you kind of have to do that when you're young. You kind of try to have to go after everyone to get established, because if you're not going after those guys, well, then you're going to get sent right back down. And they'll bring up someone else who's young, the young, hungry lion, right? So as you get older, I took great pride in giving guys their first shot, because I had a lot of guys that didn't need to fight me at all. And I don't mind name dropping a couple. Mad Mel Engelstadt, what a gentleman. Very tough human. He didn't need to fight a young, wild, blonde-haired Trevor Gillies. I asked him to fight off the draw. I said, hey, Mad Mel, I go, I'd be honored if you give me a fight and to have you on my fight card. He kind of looked back at my jersey. It's like, you sure, kid? And I was like, yes, sir. And he goes, all right, kid, if we're going to do this, we're going to center ice and doing this right and buckets off, kind of show him what we're about. And I said, all right. And I line up with the guy, and, Matt Mel's nose is fixed now, but I mean, this dude was not playing around, and luckily I had a great fight with him. So he did, I took great pride in giving guys their shots. As you get older, you kind of the old lion, and you got these young, hungry lions coming up, and that's part of it. Not being a spot picker, like doing it, giving this kid a shot. So all the guys I idolized did it. So, Bob Probert. I mean, there's so many of them. They gave tons of young guys their shot, and Ty Domi, and I can name 100 to you. So I wasn't confused. Like growing up, I wasn't dreaming of being Wayne Gretzky. I knew I wasn't going to make it like that. So like my favorite players are exactly the way I played.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, the psychology of the role, right? And I think that's kind of what you're speaking to there a little bit as well, right? Like, and that's the sort of like the piece that I was trying to plug into, is because you got a big personality. I mean, it comes across loud and clear on the podcast, right? You like to tell a joke, and you're a social animal, So like that, and I try and bring it back to what I'm doing with players now too. Is like everyone needs to be them. Like there's a reason why you're on the squad. One from like a role standpoint, and like you definitely need to do a role as a professional that's going to make the team valuable. But there's also a value to you in the locker room, right? And I guess understanding what that is and what that works, how that works for like a guy like Trevor Gillies, right? Like when's the right time to talk or to tell the joke, or how much air do you need to take out of the room when you walk into it? You know what I mean? Like that type of stuff.
Yeah. Okay, I understand what you're saying. Yeah. So, I mean, when you're young, you don't really say shit if you have a mouthful. So, you're just there. And as you get more established and are more of a leader, it's, especially in my role, you better be one of the hardest working dudes on that team. So that's contagious. If you're constantly in the gym or on before shooting pucks or working on your game after, that's the kind of leadership. And, I was a rah guy, but obviously, if I didn't have a C, when the captain speaks, and everyone's listening. But, definitely think that's probably what I was best at, which you don't see on this, obviously, in goals and assists, is the locker room leadership. Guys knowing that, this is our guy. He's got us. Like straight up, like be like, hey, don't worry. If he touches you, I'll take him out, whether I get a suspension or not. That's true enforcing. I didn't really care either way, regardless if I was going to lose money or get suspended. I mean, you got a job to do, and that's making sure the brothers are protected and feel safe in that locker room and on the ice.
And that's a great thing to go to sleep with at night, to be honest. Like just to know that you've done that job well, and you're taking care of people. I think there's almost like a bit of community service kind of feeling when it comes to that. I think that's wild. I was going to say, just with the with your goals, and it's going to be more of a rip at me than at you, but I was looking. It's just funny the way things work out, right? Like you had 322 games in the East Coast League, and you might not even know this, but you scored one goal there.
Yeah, exactly.
22 games, right?
Uh-huh.
And in 409 AHL games, you had 9. And now here's the beauty, though. In 57 NHL games, you had 2. So your goals per game average was highest at the NHL level, and you outscored me by 1. And I think that's just fantastic that you're.
Well, yours is probably a whole lot nicer than my 2 in the NHL. I can tell you that. So one of them was just crashing the cage. My boy Zenon Konopka was wide on the right side and backhanded like kind of a sauce, and I just crashed the cage against Ottawa. It was Robin Lehner, my old teammate, and he just got his jersey retired. So congrats to him, Chris Neal. He was on the ice. I don't think he liked that I actually got a goal. That one was a little controversial. They thought it went off my skate, but it kind of went off my shaft in the top of the cage, just crashing the paint. And then the second one is all Mark Straight. I mean, he was our captain at the time. Great player. Great guy. Rocket. So we did this drill. He was coming off shoulder operation. I was suspended. And we would do these cutback drills. I'd go cut back, go to the net, drive the net, do a little shot on the goalie, come back to the corner, zap him a puck. On the tape, he does his little thing and then walks and talks the line and lets a rocket go. So that's exactly what happened. And we did it every single day. Was one of the drills we did because it was only me and him on the ice with the assistant coaches. And right. So I was just in front of the net against the Rangers and, in the goalie's eyes and, perfect placement and tipped it, and the goalie went down butterfly and went in. So, it's not like I toe dragged the guy out of the corner or and went shelf or one timer, right? So, you're just playing with better guys. So maybe had a few more points in the East Coast League. I was like a nuclear weapon. So I wasn't like I was trying to score many goals. I was just trying to get it out of my end. Be very physical, make good tape-to-tape passes, kill some penalties. I was not a power play guy. And so I only got 1 goal on the coast. Yeah, it's pretty sad. And that amount of games. That was against the Trenton Titans in Trenton. And the AHL, I couldn't remember them all, but there wasn't that many. So, yeah, man, I made my living being a good teammate and being very physical. I think what helped me is that I was a good hitter. Because when you're running the other team's talent, even if they don't want to fight you, you kind of force their hand and they have to. So
right. A page out of Stevie Webb's book there.
Yeah, I actually really like that guy. I never got to play against him or play with him. But just being from the alumni event, he seems like he has a great big personality, kind of like myself, and he's very much loved in Islander country. That's for sure. So,
well, but to your point, though, I just brought him up because he was like a wrecking ball. I mean, he could fight, but he was more known for being able to blow you up, right? Like that. He loved hitting, and that is a mass. I mean, even today's game without the fighting, it being as big of a part as it once was, guys know who can hit, right?
Oh, that's right. Absolutely. Yeah. I remember going in on. You remember that Bufflin guy? He's a superstar.
Yeah,
I forget his first name.
Dustin.
Yeah, I'd forecheck him in the AHL and in the NHL, and I'd be like, and I'm a big boy. I'd hit that guy, and I'd be like, like he is so solid on his skates. I mean, just counter hit me, blow my world up. Trying to get back to the bench. I mean, that guy. There's certain guys that you hit or that have hit me that I'm like, whoa. I got crushed one time in NHL preseason by Tutu. Another guy he's such a good hitter. Just like rock your world, you know.
Isn't that wild? Like at that level too. Like
yeah. Oh man.
I told the one story. My first game in my first game with Toronto after I got traded, we were playing against the Flyers, and for whatever reason, I was matched up against the Legion of Doom. So we were playing against Lindros and Leclerc and Renberg, and they were coming out of their end. And I was hot in on the forecheck. You know, I was like F2, and I thought I had Leclerc all lined up. I mean, he had his back to me, like getting a rim, right? Like, you know, like the hardest job in the world for a winger, right? And he didn't even know I was coming. And you know, I was 205 pounds, right? 6'2". Like I wasn't like I was small. And anyways, I thought I just had him just to a T, and I hit him, and I don't even know if he knew I was there. Like there might have been a little bit of a counter push maybe, but like same thing to your point, like wind knocked out of me. I don't think he moved an inch, right? And I'm like, oh my God, like some of those guys are just, it's just different, you know, for whatever reason. And
it's
so
wild.
I remember a few of those moments too.
It's wild. Yeah, that's cool.
Is there anyone there? I mean, you remember it's so awesome too. Like I love that the tough guys remember the goals, right? Like you to the letter you remember it. Is there anyone before we run off here as far as memorable tilts for you at the NHL level that really stand out? Whether it be like, you know, a big, not just a win or a loss, but like kind of maybe shifted the momentum of the game, or was against somebody that had an impact, maybe not only on the team, but maybe even on a little bit of your career, like a kind of a statement. Was there any statement fights?
I think when I got there, I got called up 9-10, like kind of the second half, you know, in and out of the lineup. I think I played 14 games. And then 10-11, when I was there the full year, early on, one of my first fights was against a guy by the name of DJ King. Very, very tough. And luckily that one went well for me. So, you know, that's one of those scenarios, like he could really do some damage. I mean, breaks faces, this guy's. And luckily it went well. And that kind of helped early on. And then the one that's real memorable is after we won't get into it, but the Pittsburgh Penguins incident. You know, it was one of the wildest games ever. I think the most penalized game in Islanders history.
Really?
Yeah.
What are the details? I don't remember this one. Is that the one with was Goddard on Pittsburgh then?
Yes. And that's what I was just going to bring up. The hand of God. Goddard is a very, very, very tough dude. I think one of the toughest of my era. And so me and him had some fights, and that year, I think we fought 3 times. And so I got a suspension and kind of had that brawl started. And, you know, I knew when I came back from suspension that I was going to have to pay the piper. So, you know.
Well, can we rewind? Like, tell that story. Like what? So, I mean, it's obviously super familiar for you, but like maybe some fans don't know. Like what was the incident? Why did
our guy, you know, Rick DiPietro, who's how I kind of got my shot.
My old roomie.
I love Ricky. He's the hardest working athlete, just totally shredded. He looks like the muscle chart at the doctor when there's a bone chart and a muscle chart, and you can see every muscle on this guy's whole body. I mean, he's an absolute beast. Worked extremely hard in the gym. Would go eat something, and then he'd be on the arc for 15 minutes just to burn some of the calories. I mean, he's an absolute animal. So he was coming back from, I think, hips and knees type stuff, was down with us in Bridgeport on conditioning, and he came up to me in the weight room day of the game. He was playing, and he goes, hey, Gilly. I was like, hey, Ricky, what's up? And he goes, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm working out, bro. I go, what are you doing? He goes, I'm working out too. He goes, you're playing tonight, right? I said, yeah, bro, I'm playing. He goes, and you're working out this hard? I said, yeah. I go, I almost lost my career last year to a concussion. I said, I work out every game day, get a little pump on, go home, have a nice meal and have a nap. He goes, you want to be workout partners? So me and him kind of hit it off, and I was doing well with my fight. So he went up and told Garth about me. So long story short, that's how it all started. I just wanted to give you a little background on Ricky. Ricky got dropped by Johnson, who was the big, tall goalie with Pittsburgh. Went down and fought, clean fight, and you know he caught him. He's big boy, like 6'4", whatever he is, and that was no problem with that. But they showed it over and over on Sports Center and TSN and all the different things, and their team was like laughing with our down player. And so we kind of had some in-house meetings saying we weren't going to get pushed around anymore, whether you were a skill guy or not. We're going to arrive in 5, that Wolfpack mentality. And we had guys like Jack Hillen fighting, Bailey, Como, like guys like that. And then obviously me, Matt Martin, and Haley got called up, and Zenon Konopka. So we got up, really up in a game, and kind of made a stand. It was a wild match. It was a wild match. So I got suspended, and when I came back, I knew that I was going to have to pay the piper. So I'm out there, and Gods comes up. Gods didn't say a word to me, but he's very tough. I have a lot of respect for him. He was very good to my brother when my brother got called up to Bridgeport. Him and a couple other guys, Kevin Colley, I'm buddies with. So, I already fought this guy in the minors. I've already fought him this year a couple times. Like, I know how tough he is. I mean, I could feel his right hand through my Easton helmet that was like welded on. And when I come up to, he comes up beside me. We kind of lean into each other a little bit off the face off, and he don't say anything. And I go, hey Gods, hey Gods, pretty sure we got to get this out of the way, huh? I know we got to do it, huh? He goes, yep. And that's all he said was yep. And I'm like, all right. And then so right off the draw, when I come back, we square off, and I'd been training a lot and hitting the mitts, and being put through the paces with the assistant coaches on the ice, and then our strength coach in the gym, and I was in the best shape of my life. And fortunately, I was able to cross grab that massive right hand of his and put him down in that fight. So it was kind of like I paid the penance, you know what I mean? Like I did my time, because he's one of the toughest guys in the league, and it could have went the other way. Like I could have been gotten pounded. So after that, I mean, that's their toughest dude, one of the toughest in the whole NHL, in the National League. That was huge. That was probably my biggest fight, because it could have went very much the opposite way.
Right.
He's a very, very dangerous fighter. He's an incredible fighter.
He's from Vernon too. Like he was my next door neighbor, and I know him well. Yeah,
cool.
He's scouting now for Minnesota, and
I love that.
Yeah,
how's he doing? Good.
He was a guest on here too a little while ago, not that long ago actually.
How's God's doing? Good.
Yeah, he's doing good. He's doing good.
Good.
He's gone through some stuff with his head. Like he had some concussion issues. He found out that he is an epileptic as well. So like there's some stuff that he's going through, but I think him getting back in the game has been an awesome transition for him. It's been really, really beneficial for him. So,
that's awesome.
But yeah, I mean, to your point though, like he's one of those names that, like, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a guy who studies NHL tough guys, so I won't pretend that I do. But I mean, as far as from the upper echelon of names, right? Like there's some names that the casual sports fan knows, right? But like when I have talked to NHL tough guys, his name always comes up as being like one of the best, 100%. One of the toughest, and I don't think he gets that recognition.
In my opinion, he's one of the toughest.
Yeah.
And I fought them all. I mean, he's very, very tough, very hard punches.
Yeah.
He's not playing patty cake out there. If you don't have your chin tucked and one of those land on your chin, you're going night.
Right. Yeah. That's wild. I love the nuclear weapon. That's
dude. He's the real deal. Yeah, I fought him 3 times that year.
Was that the one though? So that whole Pittsburgh, New York thing, was that when like somebody did someone hit the goalie? I thought somebody hit.
Yeah. So if you watch it, Mike Haley, who had a great NHL career after that, it was his first NHL game. And I think he had 3 fights, but there was one down in the corner and I got booted. And then he went down, he was going towards the penalty box, and Johnson, who dropped DiPietro, was kind of like looking at him like, hey, you want some of this? And then they both just dropped the mitts and they squared off. And Hales is a great fighter, like unbelievable middleweight, and he could play. And then all of a sudden, if you watch it, you'll see Godsey come off the bench.
Right.
And then luckily for my boy Haley, because Goddard missed that shot, because that one big punch he throws, that looping right hand, if that hits Haley, he might still be laying on the ice or in a grave. It was wild. So Ghazi got an immediate 10 games because, leaving the bench. But,
Right.
same
So
thing.
that was, and you were already kicked out of that game before Ghazi jumped the boards.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I knew I had to pay my penance when we played again in April.
What did you get kicked out for?
Yeah, it was. You can watch it. I mean, there had some Eric Tangrady. I was running around like he was the champ, Derek Bugard out there, and had a lot of choice words to say to me and our bench. I'm an open book, so I don't care anymore. I'm not in the game, so it doesn't matter. But he took out two of our guys with concussions. They had to leave the ice, and I was obviously yapping at him because that's my job. And he had pretty much said I wasn't going to come back on the ice. The game was not out of control yet. And I looked at a certain somebody who I'd played for before, and he told me, "Don't worry, big guy, you're going to get your shot soon. Stay loose." So I did. And then I went up to the draw, and I told him, didn't even look at the puck. It was like total from the movie Goon, just like facing him instead of where they dropped the puck. And I said, "Not so tough now, are you, Tango?" And he had a bunch of choice words to say to me. And I said, "I'm so brutally honest with it, I don't care. So you'll love this." So I said, "I can assure you, if you touch any one of my teammates this shift or the puck, it's happening." And we had a turnover at their end over the blue line, come back, track into the house. I'm supposed to stop in the teeth of the D zone coverage on the left side, and he was coming down his left side. And I just picked up steam and went in there and kind of flew in the air and landed not the cleanest thing I've ever done, and then it started a whole brawl. So I definitely deserved the 9 games for sure. So after that happened, and I got back, from suspension, and Goddard was back from suspension, I knew I had to fight the hand of God,
right.
and one of the toughest in the league. So
yeah, fair enough.
I
had to go back and rewatch that whole thing now.
It's pretty wild. I mean, I still get chirped, so not so much anymore, but I got death threats for forever from Pittsburgh fans. But what people need to realize is we have a job to do, and regardless of the suspensions, it's you got to do it. And so and I don't regret it at all. To be honest with you, I wish the player never got hurt on the play.
Right.
But it's an epic game. And, I'm probably hated in Pittsburgh, but really loved in New York for it. So that's just fine with me because I don't plan on going to watch games in Pittsburgh.
Just out of curiosity, just thinking of it now, when you got knocked out by Bugard and then you were hurt there for the 3 weeks, were you an NHLer until you got healthy? Like, were you making NHL money while you were hurt?
Yeah, but I mean, it's not like I was making, what good players make. I think the minimum was like, I don't know, 400 or 425.
Yeah, 375 or 400.
Something like that, whatever. And yeah, but I mean, that isn't what you want. I mean,
it's not. No, it's definitely not. I was just wondering because there was a guy that broke his ankle in like his first shift or whatever. He's ended up being up there for like 3 months. You know what I mean? It was in that scenario was like legitimately like it was going to be a 1 game kind of thing. Like I don't know if that was yours or not. And then he ended up being like on the NHL payroll for like 4 months and living the good life.
Yeah, mine was just a couple weeks, and then I was trying to get back as fast as possible with the boys down in Portland. We had a great team. It was the best team I ever played on.
Oh, that's fun. That's fun. The concussions are the worst. So I had my first one in Germany, and it was from a practice thing. It wasn't from a fight. It was like I got kneed in the head just completely by accident. And God, what a drag, man! Like it's a super, super tough thing to come back from.
Terrible. It's like you're in a fog and. Those headaches, I don't know about yours, but mine was always eyes. When I'd get a concussion, it was my right eye would be like always like, whoa, like twitching and stuff. I'm so very fortunate that I listened to a specialist when I was down in the East Coast League at the end of my career saying, like, what are you doing? You're not making any money. Like, my brain checked out good, when you get the ink in your arm and shows if you have dead spots or bleeding and the shrinkage of the brain and all that. And he said, it's remarkable that what your results came back like, considering how many fights you've had in your life since you were young. He wanted me to stop the madness. And I'm so fortunate I listened to him, because I would have continued to play. My goal when I got that old was to truly play till 20 years, and I never made 20. I did 19. Um, which not many guys have done. I mean, I think my boy and your boy, Sean Thornton, great guy. Played with him in Portland. He was our captain before he got called up to win a Stanley Cup, and then he won another. Eric Bolton. There's only a few guys that have done. That's a long term, regardless of the level you're at. So I'm glad I listened, because, a lot of guys go through some real bad stuff in terms of, not being able to be with sensitivity to light and having to stay in a dark room, and, it affects their family life. I mean, I've had a great wife through it all, and but concussions suck, and you only get one brain. It's not like you can get a new knee or a shoulder. So
right, that was one of the reasons why I did shut her down personally. I got a second concussion really quickly. Well, not really quickly, but a couple months after I came back, and it was a nothing hit. Like, I saw it coming. It wasn't a punch again, and it was like up against the glass, and that was scary for me, honestly. I was like, holy crap! Like, I'm more fragile now, like, without question. Like, I had nothing wrong with me for like 10 years, and all of a sudden I take this hit, and I was like, oof. To your point, like, one brain, right? And they didn't know a ton about what to do or not to do. I was 30, and anyways, neither here nor there. But it was a considering factor in me deciding to leave. That's pretty wild, man. Like, what a run, man. Started in the East Coast League, ended in the East Coast League, had the NHL games in the middle, and a bunch of pit stops along the way. And
I call it full circle, right? It's because I wanted my little girl to watch me play at the end of the line. And she was obviously there. Pretty much I got a concussion, just like you said, a routine hit, like defenseman bobbled the puck in neutral zone, just over there, just kind of in their blue line. He bobbled a puck, so you're supposed to kind of be soft. I'm taking away the lane for the D to D, and he bobbled it. So then I step on the gas a little bit and just have a clean hit, shoulder on body, and it was like I was in another planet. I mean, so just like you said, it was time. I actually listened to the doctors, and it was a tough one to get through. But I would like to bring up guys that I think Goddard might be involved with them. Not 100% sure, but Goddard, Todd Fedoric, Scott Parker, Riley Cote, Vandenbush. A lot of these guys are helping a ton of ex-combat veterans and ex, hockey players and football players and lots of people with CBD and different things like that. So instead of, people pushing the pills, big pharma, there's a lot of other ways to get healthy. And because of the stuff that Riley Cote sent me, that had THC in it, I was able to heal my brain, and very fortunate that I'm living a great normal life now, to be honest.
Oh, wow. So that was a big contributing factor for you, you believe, the cannabis products?
Oh, 100%. I still take them all the time.
What is the supplementation for that? Sorry to cut you off.
So there's all different kinds. There's droppers, which is like the oils. There's gummies. There's different kinds of stuff. There's stuff for body called Salve, which is, if you're sore, if your back or your hips, you just rub a little bit of this on. It's an absolute game changer. So
is it a regenerative thing for the brain? Like, and if so, how do you know this? Like, I don't want to get into the science.
See, I'm not like a scientist, but there is, if you do some research on microdosing of psilocybin, it's one drug that creates new neural pathways in your brain. So it actually makes you sharper and kind of like fixes some stuff. There's a lot to it. And I'm a big believer in it. It's a lot better than drinking or pills. So, and it's all about quality of sleep, right? If you're getting good sleep, then your body can actually heal. And that does help with that. It helps with many things. So, people should reach out to those guys or look into it themselves. So. And
this is not, you're not a doctor or prescribing anything. So
no, I'm not at all. No, I'm not at all. And I don't recommend it for, anyone young, because I know a lot of young people are listening to this show. But if you're an old pro and you're struggling with stuff, especially from your head and your body, this will help.
Right.
I'm
No,
big
I
on all
respect that.
stuff.
And all I want to say, because my next question was like, and just because my own curiosity, because I've heard it be effective for people before, but you use that term micro dosing. Like, is there like what is that like? What would that mean as far as like how much would you be taking a day?
Well, I don't know the exact milligrams, but it's like it tells you. It's like, these little chocolates or whatever, and
Yeah.
they're like little triangles or little whatever, or CBD. It tells you, like, you might, depending on the person and their size, it might be like half a dropper is all they need, or
Right. So
it
to
might
your
be a
point though,
full
it's not like
dropper.
your state is altered. It's not like you're high. It's like a small dose
No,
just for your
yeah,
brain, right?
no, a lot, yeah, exactly, and just for your
Yeah.
body. So,
Yeah.
there's all different kinds, just straight up CBD, and I don't know enough about it, but I know that it helped me. So the cannabinoids and all the different healing properties and all the different stuff that goes involved. But some of those guys are very, very knowledgeable, and that's what they do for a living now.
That's
So.
awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Do you want to talk a little bit? We've talked already. My goodness, and I forgot about the PHPA stuff and your involvement with helping the alumni there. Maybe we should just touch on that before we get off. How's that working?
So, we got funding from the Professional Hockey Players Association through Larry Landon and the group.
And just for those listening, sorry to cut you off again, but the NHLPA is the National Hockey Players Association, and there's a union there, and everyone gets looked after and very, very well looked after. But for a long time, at the what people would call the minor pro level, which is nothing minor about it all, but the AHL level and the East Coast League level, there wasn't as much support, and that was actually being built back when we were playing, like to try and build that infrastructure and the support network. So the PHPA is the Professional Hockey Players Association, which is completely outside of the NHL and the NHLPA. So, anyways, I just want to set the table there.
Yeah, absolutely. That's an important point. And so we got funding for this, and a guy that was an amazing teammate to me when I was a young 20-year-old with the blonde hair when you met me, his name's Chuck Thuss. He was our top goalie down there in Biloxi. He's dedicated his life to helping others, with all kinds of things, but, mainly mental health. And so, a bunch of us that, you as well, you've played with guys that now unfortunately have passed, whether it's taking their own life or there's many scenarios. And a bunch of us, mainly Mike Scroy, he's one of my best friends. He called me, and we're just tired of seeing guys like, not feeling like they're alone. So we've created this group. Chuck runs it, and it was Mike's idea, and I put him in touch with a ton of people because I'm a business. I couldn't call everyone. So they made the calls, and the group is growing. And I truly think it is incredible. It's got that locker room feel. So it's almost like we call it the locker room. It's not really the name, but it's called the PHPA, Professional Hockey Players Association Players Assistance Program. And we had a call last night, 7:00 Eastern Standard Time Zone on Wednesdays every other week. And guys get together. It's that what's said in the room stays in the room. Guys can go talk about what they're going through, whether it's concussions, any issues, problems, and you have a bunch of different kind of opinions to help. And, we eventually would like to get some funding from companies, different people, us personally, to truly be able to add value to guys. Like, some of them are homeless, living under bridges, whatever, nothing wrong with that. But, maybe get them a gym membership and, where they can shower and shave and kind of get their feet back, get working out, get, dig out of the water, come from under the water. And there's just so many different scenarios where guys are in different stages. Some are doing very well, then can provide great value and guidance. But we all deal with stuff, right? So it's just a really cool locker room feel that, you're not alone, and the access to all the guys' numbers. If you played professional hockey, even if it was just a couple games at the East Coast League or anytime, some of the other leagues that are now not there anymore. I think there was the ECHL and different leagues that were a part of the union. You can join our group and be a part of the call, and it's incredible. One of the things you miss as a player is that brotherhood and that support network and just the boys, really, right? We tell little stories. We're trying to have a lot more structure to the meeting. We're going to have people speaking. But I'm super honored to be a part of it because I've already seen like how it's helping some guys a lot.
Oh, that's amazing, man. That's great. Yeah, there's
and so if anyone wants to be added on it, they can reach out to me on social media. Gillies 14 at Gillies 14 on Instagram, or Trevor Gillies on Facebook, or reach out to Chuck Thus or Mike's, a bunch of us involved in it. And we'll get you a link so you can come on. And some, they don't have to speak. A lot of times it's great book references, just great quotes. There's just a lot of things you can learn, even if you feel like you're okay. But if you want to say whatever you want to say, it's an open platform, and it's fully confidential, and it's awesome. I truly enjoy it.
All right, good for you, man. That's great. There's a hard time transitioning, regardless. I know for a lot of guys, after post playing career, and losing that locker room mentality and that kind of that brotherhood, and actually there's a lot of times when guys are playing where they still feel like not connected, even though they are a part of a team, right? Like there's so anyways, regardless of whether you're done playing or whether you are playing, I think that having that group there is a great support mechanism, and one that guys, I think it's becoming more, it's guys like you talking about the benefits of it, that allows more people to be drawn to it, right? Because it takes away the stigma of, whatever the stigma might have been attached to that, 20, 30 years ago. There's sometimes there's some resistance there, but all that resistance is BS. I've found that big time. The more you can talk about whatever, celebrate the successes too, right? It doesn't have to always be the dirty water.
That's right. And that's what we're doing. One of the guys got a new promotion in his job, and so we're congratulating him. It's just a great brotherhood, and network of people, for support, and just to be able to, whether it's dirty laundry or not watching the old tapes and no rear view mirrors and only forward, and just so many tools, and it's so fun. I mean, it's like I'm taking notes, I'm constantly learning, so it's all part of that self-development we're talking about.
Oh, that's perfect, man. All right. Well, I mean, what a great guest. I did want to talk to you. It sounds like you're on the podcast circuit, where else you've been on, but it sounds like you do these all the time. But I mean, it's been awesome to have you on the Up My Hockey podcast for episode 104, and to celebrate you and your journey, and all the places you've been, and how you got there. I think I know there's massive amounts of gold in that story, and the lessons that you're able to share. So, Gilly, thanks so much for doing this for me and for my platform. We really appreciate your time.
I appreciate you, Pods, and looking forward to seeing you next year at the alumni event, buddy. Keep in touch, and tell those boys to be chasing all their dreams, my man.
Thank you so much for sticking around to the end. And Trevor, if you're still listening, or if you ever listen to this at all, thank you wholeheartedly and gratefully. I really appreciate the time that you spent in sharing your story with us today so candidly. And also appreciate the kind words, Gilly, that you mentioned for me a few times. It's always nice to hear that. Whatever, as crazy as it is, it's nice for the ego to hear someone say, "Hey, you were a hell of a player," or thanks for making an impact, or you were a good guy. It seems so far removed right now that you kind of don't really remember, or I don't really remember those days, and those teams and everything else. So very classy to recognize somebody in their presence, and I think that's like I've definitely taken study of that on a personal level. Just there's been a few times lately where in a conversation, whether in front of my sons or in front of my wife, or just personally, just one-on-one, where somebody has said something kind to me about me, and it made a huge impact on me. And I remember that. I remember those conversations, and how easy it was really for that person to do it, but how rare it actually happened. So what is my point? My point is like that we have the ability to do that on the daily. You meet the hockey mom in the arena, and the child is there, and you say something positive either about the child or about the mom in front of the other person, and recognize them for being great at whatever it is that you think they're great at. Example of that was Dwayne Sutter when I was at the alumni meeting there. We were alumni weekend for the Islanders. It was in the hotel lobby, and my middle son Gunnar was with me, And I introduced him to Dwayne, and like the second or third sentence out of Dwayne's mouth, this 4-time Stanley Cup champion, to a guy who played 41 NHL games, was to my son. He said, your father was a hell of a player. I just want you to know that he was a hell of a player, and didn't get the opportunity that he needed, and that happens sometimes, but I want you to be really proud of him. Like, that blew my mind that he would say something like that. And the beauty of it is, like, even in that scenario, if it's false or not completely true, like, he massively impacted Gunnar, like my son, and probably the image that Gunnar holds for me. And like, what a cool thing that is for our relationship. And I just thought, wow, that was pretty classy. And yeah, so as far as Trevor today saying what he said, it's like, I think it's a lesson for all of us, is that, man, like, we can impact. We can say nice things, and they can be super honest, and they can be super authentic, but it's just usually things that we don't mention. And why don't we? Really, like, why don't we? Generally, the people that we hang around, we have the choice of who we hang around. So if we're hanging around somebody, there must be some redeeming qualities about them that we enjoy. And how rare is it that you acknowledge the qualities that you appreciate in somebody else, or that you value, or that you look up to, and the impact that can make for them. So anyways, as far as being a good human, I guess that goes along with Up My Hockey, is recognizing, the goodness in others, and really spreading that energy. Whether you're a hockey player and telling a teammate that's something that I've done for team building in the past, is two good things and one negative thing as far as from a team building experience is concerned. What are the best parts about this player, and what do you like about them as a teammate? That's nice to hear from your teammates, and not something that you generally go around saying. So it doesn't have to be a team building event, is all I'm saying. Like, you can do this on your own and just make it part of your personal makeup that you're going to try and impact somebody, on the daily, and whether that be somebody in your close, tight inner circle. I think sometimes where we show up the poorest for those that are closest to us, meaning our own kids and our own spouses and our own parents. Sometimes they see the darker parts of us a little too easily, and so maybe we can do that for them, or maybe it's someone outside of your circle. But there's definitely ways that when you are grateful about somebody else or something else, and we're able to express that, it just makes us more grateful. It ends up shifting our own energy and our own perspective on things, because we're looking for it, right? We're consciously, actively scanning the environment for reasons to appreciate somebody else, and for reasons to appreciate life. And that's a high energy vibe, right? Like, that's a good energy vibe. And that type of stuff is contagious. So there's my tangent today on gratitude, and on celebrating others, and the impact that it can make. I think that's a lesson from Trevor that I took today, along with all the other lessons. Like, what a great storyteller, and the NFQ, and the reinventing himself, and how he would go to bat for his teammates, and how that was, where he would hang his coat on that, that if he did that well in a day, that he served well. So many great takeaways from Trevor, and anyone gets me laughing as often as he did. I hope you guys are laughing at some of the stuff he was saying there too. So awesome spending the time we did here today. Look forward to the next episode, and look forward to spending time with you again next week. Until next time, play hard, keep your head up.